A promise born from dust. In a time before history was written in ink, a story of profound love and unfathomable trial was etched into the very stones of a barren desert. It began not with a king's decree or a prophet's miracle, but with a divine instruction that seemed to defy all human logic. The great patriarch Abraham, a man who had waited a lifetime for a child, was commanded by God to take his wife Hajar and their infant son Ishmael into the desolate, waterless valley of Mecca and leave them there. With a heart heavy with a pain only a father could know, Abraham led them to the spot, a wind-swept basin of sand and rock. He left them with a small pouch of dates and a single skin of water. As he turned to leave, the silence of the valley was broken by his wife's desperate voice. "Where are you going? Leaving us in this valley where there is no person and nothing to be seen?" He did not look back. Finally, she asked the only question that truly mattered. "Did God command you to do this?" "Yes," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Her response was not one of anger or despair, but of a trust so pure it would echo for eternity. "Then he will not abandon us." In that crucible of faith, a legacy was forged. When the last drop of water was gone, and the infant Ismail cried with a life-threatening thirst, his mother ran in a frenzy between the two small hills of Safa and Marwa, scanning the empty horizon for any sign of hope. After her seventh frantic search, as she collapsed in exhaustion, a miracle occurred. At the feet of the crying baby, a spring of fresh water bubbled up from the lifeless ground. It was the well of Zamzam, a divine answer to a mother's prayer and a testament to her trust. This sacred well transformed the valley. It drew life to the lifeless land, and soon a tribe of travelers settled there, turning the desolate outpost into a nascent community. In this budding civilization, Ishmael grew from a miraculous baby into a strong, righteous young man. His father, Abraham, would make the long journey from Palestine to visit the son he loved more than his own life. Their reunions were filled with the profound joy of a father seeing his answered prayer grow in piety and character. The years of hardship seemed a distant memory, replaced by the peace and blessing of a flourishing family, a thriving community, and a shared purpose. But the test of leaving a child in the desert was merely the foundation for a trial far greater. A command was coming that would not test the bonds of distance, but the very essence of love itself, demanding a sacrifice so unthinkable it would forever define the meaning of faith. The whisper in the dream. The tranquil rhythm of Abraham's life was suddenly disturbed by a recurring vision in his sleep. Night after night, the same chilling dream unfolded with terrifying clarity. He saw himself standing over his beloved son, Ishmael, with a knife in his hand. He saw himself performing the ultimate act of sacrifice. A loving father was being commanded to take the life of his own child. His soul was in torment. This was Ishmael, the son of his old age, the child he had prayed for his entire life. Every instinct screamed in protest against the vision. But Abraham was a prophet, and he knew the dreams of a prophet were a form of divine revelation. This was no nightmare. This was a command from his Lord. During this period of profound inner struggle, the great deceiver, Satan, saw an opportunity. He appeared to Abraham, whispering poison into his ear, preying on his paternal love. A God of mercy would never command such a horror, he hissed. This is a delusion, a trick of your mind. But Abraham, whose friendship with God was forged in fire and unwavering trust, recognized the enemy's voice and drove him away. Failing with the father, the whisperer went to the young Ishmael. Your father is mad, he tempted. He plans to slaughter you because of a dream.
Run! Save yourself!
But Ismail, who had inherited his father's profound faith, was not deceived. He too rebuked the tempter. Defeated twice, Satan tried a third time, going to Hajar, the mother. He painted a gruesome picture of her husband's intent, hoping her maternal horror would stop the act. But the woman who had once faced a desolate desert with only her faith stood firm once more, sending the deceiver away in failure. The entire family had passed their individual tests. The whispers of doubt were silenced, and Abraham's heart, though shattered with a grief beyond description, settled on the absolute certainty of his duty. Now he had to face the most difficult moment of his life. He had to tell his son. He took Ishmael on a walk to the hills outside the town. Every step was heavy with an unspoken sorrow. Every glance at his son, who walked beside him with such innocent trust, was a fresh wound in his heart. When they were finally alone, Abraham turned to his forbearing child. His voice was steady, but it carried the weight of a breaking heart. In an act of profound mercy and respect, he did not issue an order. He presented the divine command for his son's consultation. "Oh, my son," he said, his words preserved for all time in the Holy Scripture, "I have seen in a dream that I must sacrifice you, so see what you think." He laid the impossible choice at his son's feet. The heavens watched. An aged father, knife in hand, had asked for the life of his promised son. The entire legacy of their family, and a lesson for all humanity, now hinged on the boy's next words. An unbreakable blade, an unbroken will. A silence fell upon the rocky hills, a silence so profound it seemed the world itself was holding its breath. The young Ishmael looked into the eyes of his heartbroken father, and from his lips came no cry of fear, no plea for his life, no hint of rebellion. Instead, he spoke with a calm and courageous submission that could only have come from God himself. His reply was the triumph of faith over the deepest instincts of survival. "Oh, my father," he said, "do as you are commanded. You will find me, if God wills, among the steadfast." That was it. In that moment, the trial was past. The true sacrifice had been made, not of a body, but of the human will. A father and a son had willingly laid their love, their lives, and their deepest attachment on the altar of submission to God. Everything that followed was but a confirmation of this victory. With a resolve that transcended all human emotion, they proceeded. The young Ishmael, a true partner in this ultimate act of faith, asked his father to tie his hands and feet so that his involuntary struggles would not cause his father more pain. He asked him to turn his face away, so the sight of him would not overwhelm his father's resolve. With tears clouding his vision, Abraham did as his son asked. He laid his beloved child on the ground. He took the sharpened knife in his trembling hand, and summoning every ounce of his faith, he drew the blade across his son's throat. But the knife did not cut. He tried again with more force, but the blade refused to even scratch the skin. It was as if he were trying to cut through a shield of diamond. In that moment of frantic confusion, a voice thundered from the heavens, a call of relief and divine approval that washed over them. "Oh, Abraham, you have fulfilled the vision," the voice declared. "Indeed, this was the clear trial." The test was over. The purpose was never to take the boy's life, but to see if the father was willing to give it. It was to see if their love for God was truly the greatest love of all. And they had passed with a success that echoed through the cosmos. As Abraham looked up, his heart overflowing with a gratitude so immense it brought him to his knees, he saw the final part of the miracle. God, in his infinite mercy, had sent a substitute, a great, magnificent ram. A sacrifice from the heavens stood waiting to be offered in Ishmael's place. Solemn. The father untied his son, and they embraced in a tearful hug, their hearts bound together forever by a shared trial and a shared mercy. Thoughtful. The knife that would not cut taught them the ultimate lesson. When you are willing to surrender what you cherish most to God, He does not take it away. He returns it to you, blessed and purified, and elevates you to a station you could never have reached on your own. Reverend. This act became the foundation of the Festival of Sacrifice, an eternal reminder that the greatest triumphs are born from the greatest submissions. A legacy of submission, contemplative. The story of the Father, the Son, and the knife that would not cut is not just a historical account. It is a living blueprint for faith. Its lessons were woven directly into the life of the final prophet, Muhammad, and into the most sacred rituals of his followers. The annual pilgrimage to Mecca is a moving reenactment of this family's journey of trust. When pilgrims run between the hills of Safa and Marwa, they honor Hajar's desperate search for water. When they offer an animal in sacrifice, they are participating in the great sacrifice that ransomed Ismail, affirming their own willingness to submit. Thoughtful. This epic trial offers timeless wisdom for every human being. It teaches that true love is not about possession. It is about aligning one's love with the will of the giver of all love. It shows that God's tests are not designed to break us, but to reveal a strength within us we never knew we had. Direct. For those of us today, the story poses a profound question. Our Ishmael, the thing we love most, the thing we place at the center of our lives, may not be a child. It may be our career, our wealth, our status, or our own ego. Introspective. The story asks, are we willing to lay that cherished thing on the altar of submission if our conscience and our faith demand it? Profound. The ultimate lesson of the story is that the true sacrifice is not of flesh and blood, but of the will. It is the shedding of our own ego, our own desires, in favor of a higher purpose. When that inner sacrifice is made, the mercy of God intervenes, and the knives of this world lose their power to harm us. Inspiring. The greatest tests of our lives are transformed into our greatest victories, and we, like Abraham, can earn the honored title of a true friend of God.